on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of CryptoZombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome day today. Bitcoin is currently trying to push actually below the $9,000 level. Yesterday, we got down to $8,800. We had a nice bounce back. We retested $9,300 twice. We spoke about the significance of this level, but what I do want to talk about is the fact that it is the weekend. We do have a holiday, and man, you know things could definitely get crazy. We're going to have CME futures closed for an extra day. So I do want to talk about the fact that we do have Bitcoin at this critical level. You can see right here, we are testing the bottom of this legacy support since Black Thursday, basically. So this is a pretty big moment coming up for Bitcoin, but that is not the only thing we need to talk about. We need to talk about some insane news today. We have some of the biggest Bitcoin critics that have been coming out, the naysayers, all of a sudden changing their tune on Bitcoin. And now you can see right here, Goldman Sachs is actually hosting a meeting entitled Implications of Current Policies for Inflation, Gold, and Bitcoin. So I do want to talk about that. I also want to discuss the fact of ultra high net worth individuals, you know, like Mark Cuban, right? He had come out and said back in 2017, maybe allocate around 10% of your portfolio to Bitcoin. Well, now we're seeing massive demand skyrocketing. So if these guys were to actually get into Bitcoin, what would that do to the price? We've simply seen Grayscale basically 10xing their investments in cryptocurrency in just Q1 of this year versus Q1 of last year. So I do want to talk about that. Oh, and we also have a bit of a conspiracy today. So it turns out that JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, was actually having secret behind the scenes meetings in 2018 with Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong. So what's going on? Do these guys know something that we don't? Are we expecting a massive move for Bitcoin? Well, guys, we are going to get into all that today. You're going to love today's video. Stick it out to the end, jam-packed with information. And also, guys, don't forget, today is the last day for the Ledger Nano S. So if you're interested and you want to win it, well, I will do that giveaway tomorrow. So drop a comment on any video and you are eligible. And without further ado, let's dive directly into the chart. So as we can see right here, Bitcoin is pushing down on some of the most critical support that's been holding us back. We've been putting in higher lows, and right here, if I zoom in, you can see Bitcoin is actually falling as I'm making this video. So is this just because of the weekend madness, the fact that we do have a holiday coming up on Monday, Memorial Day? Well, we're going to talk about it, guys. It could be a fake out, but we'll get into that in just a second, okay? If we do actually fall below this, well, then that could risk Bitcoin coming back all the way to even the low 8,000s. If we are able to break above it, well, you're looking probably for a retest around the $9,950 level. Now you can see right here that in this blue zone essentially is where Bitcoin has spent the majority of its time pretty much since, around the end of 2017. Now having a look right here, you can see the VPVR, which is right above my head. That's that red line. You see it jutting out. That is one of the highest levels of accumulation for Bitcoin, and that level is sitting at around 6,582. So if Bitcoin was to have a major rejection, and I'm talking doom and gloom, worst case scenario, we're going sideways for the next few months, you know what I'm saying? I honestly think that Bitcoin would get supported at around that $6,500 level. And you will notice that even at that point, you would have the 200 weekly moving average coming up here, which basically is pointing to a massive explosive move by the end of this year. Could happen sooner, but I just wanted to point that out. You will see, though, if we zoom in, that Bitcoin has bounced off of the 50 weekly moving average right here, which is a good sign for Bitcoin. I want to point out the fact that we've also bounced off that same average several times on the Bitcoin CME futures. Now, keep in mind, the CME futures closed at $9,172. So if Bitcoin does happen to take a big dump in the next 24 hours, like we actually have a crazy wick to the downside, there's a very good chance that once the CME futures open again, right after the holidays, we're going to see a pump to the upside back to fill the $9,175 level, which is why personally, I don't really want to see Bitcoin have any crazy blast off in the next day or two, because I do want to kind of hang out around that CME close, so we don't have any crazy volatile movements, especially to the downside. Now, speaking about Memorial Days in the past, every single time Bitcoin, we had a Memorial Day holiday closing. Bitcoin actually had very minor rallies, even though we did have a really big dump, right here after this Memorial Day. But essentially what I wanted to point out was it basically tends to have a rally usually during that time. But, could be different this time around, right? Having a look right here, though, the one thing that I don't like on the Bitcoin chart is that we are sitting below the basis on the Bollinger Bands. Now, the Bollinger Bands are good indicators of letting you know when Bitcoin is looking for these big setups, right? And you can see the tighter the bands get, they usually happen right before big moves. So like you can see right here, the bands were getting really tight, and then boom, Bitcoin basically went from around the low 7,000s all the way up to 10,500, okay? Then we had this massive move. Right here, the band started to get a little bit tight again, and then that's when Bitcoin went from around 7,000 again up to a $10,000 level, and you can see right here, the bands are once again getting tight. However, we are sitting below the basis, below this pink line, and that is technically bearish. So that would indicate a potential move to the downside if we do remain below this Bollinger, okay? Other thing I wanted to point out is some people have been talking about how some altcoins have been outperforming Bitcoin recently. Well, the Bitcoin dominance has been falling, and it has fallen below its 50 moving average. So there is a chance that we do come down here and test some of these lower levels, which would be good for the altcoins. The altcoins would rally. However, if Bitcoin either comes down here and pumps back up, or Bitcoin just decides to reclaim the 50 moving average and go to the top, well, then that would not be good for altcoins, and you'd want to be in Bitcoin because Bitcoin would be really where the percentage gains are at. Yes, everything's going to gain a dollar percentage, but you'd really want to be in whatever's going to get you more Bitcoin in the end. You do you. For me, I want to get more Bitcoin, so that's why I compare things to Bitcoin. Now, let's talk really quick before we get into the big news about Goldman Sachs and the crazy news about JP Morgan's CEO. We do know that we've seen guys like Mark Cuban come out. For example, there was this Vanity Fair short that came out back in October of 2017 where he had actually recommended putting 10% of your portfolio into potential things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. This was actually called Mark Cuban's Guide to Getting Rich. Well, in case you missed it, this is from Plan B. There are more than 200,000 high ultra net worth individuals, which basically means people that have more than $30 million of net worth. If they buy Bitcoin, they don't buy one, they don't buy two, they buy a lot. So what would happen if 10% of these ultra high net worth individuals decide that they should get some Bitcoin? Well, here's an interesting thing. If only 10% of the world's high net worth individuals had invested in Bitcoin, obviously this would cause speculative trading as well as probably be really good marketing for Bitcoin, right? Because people tend to copy all these rich guys, they're investing, so I should invest too, right? And you would think about all these, enthusiasts and even critics of Bitcoin might consider snagging up just a little bit. Well, here's an interesting thing. The FOMO created by such a move would cause the price of Bitcoin to increase drastically, most likely tripling it to its all-time high price of 20K. And basically, the reason for this is that 10% of their cumulative portfolio would be around 2.5 trillion. This would send the price of Bitcoin absolutely skyrocketing. There wouldn't be enough over-the-counter available for all these guys because we just went through a halving event. I think you guys remember this. The Bitcoin outflow from miners just dropped to 900 from 1800, so that got cut in half, right? And the interesting thing is we are already seeing high demand from these trusts. For example, Grayscale Bitcoin, they were buying up 33% of all of the newly minted Bitcoin. They added over 60,000 Bitcoin, basically between February 7th and May 17th. That is the equivalent of about 607 Bitcoin every single day over the last 100-day period, and now that supply just got cut in half, okay? Think about the implications. I mean, have a look at this chart right here. If we go back to Q1 of last year, the weekly investment was around 3.2 million. Today, fast forward, it's up to 29.2 million. Oh, and just to kind of show you guys right here, Barry Silbert from Grayscale said, just wait until you see Q2. So basically, he's hinting at the fact that it's even currently higher right now. They just don't have the reports out yet, okay? Also, I want to talk about the big news. If you've heard about it, we're going to talk about it because this is crazy. The large American multinational investment bank Goldman Sachs will host a conference call regarding Bitcoin, gold, and inflation. You can see right here, this is from Mike Dudas. He pointed it out. You can see 15th in a series. And here's the craziest thing. It's actually hosted by Sharman Masavar Rahmani. I probably said her name wrong, okay? But going back over here, we'll get into her in just a second. You can see they say speculations on the matter suggest that the bank is aiming to discuss the effects of Bitcoin and gold following current trends from central banks to print excessive amounts of money to fight the consequences of the lockdown. So here's the interesting thing. So we just talked about Sharman. So she's the chief investment officer at Goldman Sachs. Now, keep in mind, in the past, in 2018 specifically, she said that cryptocurrencies would not retain their value and their declines will not impact traditional financial assets due to their small role. According to a report from the bank at the time, Bitcoin was, quote, neither a medium of exchange, nor a unit of measurement, nor a store of value. Fast forward to 2018, and these guys are actually hosting their own pretty much discussion on it. Now, granted, okay, Macroscope here says it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have positive things to say about it, but the fact that Bitcoin is even included tells you that they are seeing substantial client interest. Okay? You are seeing right here up 10x on the week compared to last year for Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Guys, this is big news for Bitcoin, okay? And also scrolling down, you do know that recently JP Morgan has decided to start accepting JP Morgan recently has started to accept basically cryptocurrency transactions, right? So basically now they're allowing you to buy and sell into different cryptos. I think they're doing it with Coinbase and Gemini. Well, fast forward to here. Here's the interesting situation. Now, we know in the past, JP Morgan has called Bitcoin a fraud. In 2018, he called it a scam. In late 2018, he said, I don't really give a crap about Bitcoin. And I'm wording that a lot more, friendly for viewers. But basically right here, you can see that now it's been basically pointed out from Fortune journalist and author Jeff Roberts that JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon hosted secret meetings with Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong as early as 2018. On May 12th, the Wall Street Journal did say that they are providing banking services. So what do these guys know? Okay, what's going on now? The last time that JP Morgan came out and he said he would fire any of his employees caught buying Bitcoin, that exact same week, we found out that the biggest buyers of Bitcoin were JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, I believe, but JP Morgan was up there. So these guys are definitely up to something. They're definitely accumulating Bitcoin in the background. And just to point out, even just showing you some of the bullishness on Bitcoin right here, you have co-founder of Reddit, Alexis Ohanian. He was over on Yahoo Finance, and they actually asked him about Bitcoin, or not about Bitcoin, but more about the crypto space in general. And he went on to say he was incredibly bullish. In fact, I'm going to play that clip super quick, and then we're going to talk about it.
Alexis, Dan Roberts here. You mentioned Coinbase. I cover Bitcoin and blockchain for us, and the Bitcoin price action has been interesting. I'd be curious to your take. Actually, since March 6th, widespread quarantine really began, Bitcoin's up like 90%, and it's definitely not because of the halving. So the question is whether this is proving out the model that Bitcoin is a hedge during uncertainty, and just what you make of the prospects for crypto in the next few months or so.
Well, I try not to track the prices. I see we're kissing up towards 10,000. I think, all told, we've been investors. We invested in Coinbase back in 2011, 2012. So Bitcoin was a few dollars back then per coin. And so the trends we've seen bear out are actually quite telling. I think I'm not here to talk prices. I can't predict any of that stuff. What I can say, though, is we really do see a crypto spring right now in terms of top tier engineers, product developers, designers building real solutions on top of the blockchain. And that to me is the most interesting part, because the way all of this actually works is if this infrastructure exists. And so Coinbase is a great example of it. The founders at Bison Trails are doing phenomenal work there. That's a company we backed last year. We're seeing really top tier talent building on this infrastructure. And that to me is the best signal of long-term value creation. And, I've had a percentage of my wealth in crypto for quite some time now, and I still feel pretty good about it. I don't want to change too much of it. Because I do think it is just a prudent hedge. And it's interesting to see folks like OGs of Wall Street now getting into to crypto and buying buying Bitcoin and the like. But I think it's increasingly showing that it's here to stay. And that is beautiful.
Sure.
So I think one of the major takeaways is not only the fact that you're seeing these sort of Wall Street OGs, as he words it, getting involved, but he's also saying that the fundamentals are absolutely booming. And I spoke about yesterday, or not yesterday, it was a couple days ago, the orbit level predicted by Preston Pish, and he was saying that he could see Bitcoin hitting, these $100,000, $300,000 levels, before having maybe a slight pullback again. And what's interesting is he actually was over here on Twitter. It was a bit of a thread, and he was talking about, how he had actually sold a lot of Bitcoin at around 16,000 originally. And Bruce Wood asked him, when you said back that you didn't have a concern with Bitcoin going all the way, what do you mean by this? Am I reading this correctly? You are now more cautious with Bitcoin? And Preston responds, no. I'm more bullish now. I think Bitcoin has the ability to go well beyond the stock to flow level. Back in 2017, I didn't think that was possible because you didn't have the macro environment blowing up. Now is different. Things are falling apart. And if you don't know what the new stock to flow level is, that's $288,000 Bitcoin. Okay, just wanted to point that out. Okay, so that's that good news. And one other thing too, I know a lot of people were asking what is going on with Theta and Theta Fuel pumping today on the charts, 137%, 20.1%. Well, here's just more news for adoption for you guys. It turns out that according to a press release, Samsung has partnered with Theta TV to bring the game and esports streaming service to its lineup of Galaxy smartphones. So basically their platform, which is a streaming platform, is powered by Theta, obviously the Theta token, right? So, and the Theta blockchain, and they're saying now it's going to enable millions of Samsung phone users to have direct access to their gaming-centered content. Actually, we spoke about Theta last year in detail if you had been following on the channel. Haven't really been covering too many altcoins this year. You may have kind of figured that out by now. But anyway, they say that the release claims that the service will be embedded with the Samsung Daily interface that is pre-installed on all Samsung S20 smartphones. In addition, they're also going to have the updates on the Galaxy S10, S9, Note 10, Note 9. And this user database encompasses more than 75 billion devices worldwide. So there you guys go. That is just more crypto adoption moving forward. And I know in my last video, we had some kind of bad sort of negative news about what was going on with Russia potentially banning Bitcoin. Well, on the flip side, it looks like Ukraine is getting closer to providing a legal status for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So their Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine published a new draft bill on virtual assets that aims to determine the legal status of crypto assets and the rule of their circulation and issuance in the country. And so down here you can see, according to one of the co-authors of the bill, the main purpose is its initiative to finally enable local crypto firms like exchanges to open bank accounts. And according to the bill, virtual asset providers, crypto exchanges, issuers, and users have the right to open accounts in banking and other financial institutions. So there you guys go. That is a lot better news than the Russia news the other day. Also wanted to point out right here, having a look at this NVT ratio, you can see they're saying it looks healthier and our model is showing a semi-bullish signal. The amount of unique tokens being transacted on the Bitcoin network is slightly above average for the month of May. And that is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. It is the weekend. We are going into a holiday over here in the US. I would expect the price to get a little bit crazy over here on Bitcoin. We could see if we're actually falling out of this trend, if this is just a fake out. We have had this a couple times we have fallen below here. So, we'll have to see what happens over the weekend. If we do fall, really, if Bitcoin does take a plunge, keep in mind we do have the CME futures gap up at around 9,100, whatever it was that I said. So we'll probably pump up to fill that gap. And then Tuesday, things will get back to normal. But, if you actually have a look right here, it does basically look like this wedge comes to an end around June 3rd. So like I said, things could get crazy for the end of the month, but within the next week, basically by the beginning of June, I am expecting a massive move for Bitcoin. You let me know. I don't care either way. Short term to the downside, I'll just buy more. If we go to the moon, well, I'll take that as well. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I do this every single day for the most part. Yesterday, unfortunately, couldn't get a video out. I was just way too busy. But so that's it for me today. Definitely get subscribed if you haven't. Drop a comment if you want to win the Ledger Nano S. That's it for me today, guys. You guys rock. My name's K-Dub. This is CryptoZombie. Until next time. time, stay crypto, and of course, peace out.